Imagine the epicenter of international climate negotiations being stormed by fervent activists fighting for the Earth's last wild places. That's the dramatic scene that played out at COP30 in Brazil, where tensions boiled over into a rare security breach. Just hours ago, a group of demonstrators, brandishing banners declaring "Our forests are not for sale," forcefully breached the security perimeter of the COP30 climate summit late Tuesday evening in Belém, Brazil. Eyewitnesses from BBC reporters captured United Nations security personnel sprinting alongside Brazilian military forces, urgently directing conference attendees to evacuate the site without delay. According to the UN's briefing to BBC News, the disruption resulted in slight injuries to 2 security officers and some minor property damage at the venue. Online videos circulating on social media depicted participants who seemed to be affiliated with indigenous communities and supporters of Juntos, a progressive Brazilian youth organization, waving flags emblazoned with their symbols. Dressed in what looked like traditional indigenous attire, some protesters surged through the COP30 entrance, raising chants and forcibly pushing open doors before clashing with security teams. As evidenced by footage shared across the web, while they managed to penetrate the initial barriers, United Nations officials informed the BBC that further advancement into the venue was halted. A security staff member recounted to Reuters that he sustained a head injury from a drum hurled by one of the activists. This marks an exceptionally uncommon violation of protocol at such a tightly regulated international gathering. Brazilian and UN investigators are currently delving into the events, per UN statements. Delegates representing nearly 200 nations are gathered for COP30, which officially spans from Monday, November 10th to Friday, November 21st. But here's where it gets controversial. This edition of the talks commemorates the 10th anniversary of the Paris Climate Accord, a landmark 2015 agreement where countries vowed to strive for capping global temperature increases at a critical 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. It's the inaugural time the conference is hosted in Brazil, specifically in Belém, perched on the fringes of the vast Amazon rainforest. For those new to the topic, the Paris Agreement is like a global pledge to curb climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, aiming to keep warming under that 1.5°C threshold to avoid the worst impacts like extreme weather and rising seas. The choice of venue has sparked heated debate for several reasons, including the perspectives of Amazon locals, many of whom are outspoken about the severe environmental harm inflicted on their homeland through climate change and rampant deforestation. Brazil, moreover, has persisted in issuing permits for new oil and gas operations, and alongside coal, these fossil fuels, natural resources burned for energy that release heat-trapping gases, are primary drivers of global warming. To put it simply for beginners, fossil fuels are ancient, buried materials like oil, gas, and coal that power our world, but also accelerate climate change by dumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, like adding fuel to a fire that's already out of control. An indigenous spokesperson from the Tupinamba community expressed frustration to Reuters, stating, "We can't eat money," and voicing outrage over human encroachment in the rainforest. "We demand our territories liberated from corporate farming, oil drilling, unauthorized mining, and illicit logging," they added. This year's summit has been nicknamed the Indigenous Peoples COP, with Brazilian hosts vowing to prioritize native voices in discussions. Brazil's Minister of Indigenous Peoples, Sonia Guajajara, described COP30 as a historic milestone, projecting attendance by around 3,000 indigenous representatives from global communities. A recent UN study highlighted that indigenous groups protect 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity. That's the incredible variety of life on Earth. Yet, they receive less than 1% of global climate funding. Moreover, these populations face amplified effects from climate change because of their deep reliance on natural ecosystems for survival. And this is the part most people miss. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, in his opening address, urged the world to overcome climate denialism, the rejection of established science on human-caused warming, and combat misinformation. He emphasized that selecting Belém as the host city was intentional to underscore the Amazon's vital role in addressing climate issues, declaring that COP30 will be the COP of truth amid an age of distortions and dismissal of scientific facts. The president noted that this most biodiverse biome on the planet shelters close to 50 million inhabitants, encompassing 400 distinct indigenous tribes. Do you believe such bold protests are essential sparks for genuine environmental progress, or do they risk overshadowing productive dialogue? Is hosting a summit like COP30 in a region grappling with deforestation and fossil fuel expansion a bold statement of commitment or a hypocritical choice? And what counter-arguments might there be to Brazil's approach? Could expanding indigenous funding truly turn the tide on biodiversity loss? We'd love to hear your takes in the comments. Agree, disagree, or offer your own insights.